morning, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of the Los Angeles Fire Commission, the Board of Fire Commissioners special meeting, Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, and the time is 9 a.m. Ms. Gomez, would you do the roll call, please?
Woods Gray.
Here.
Babcock.
Present.
Hara.
Here.
Ibarra. Ninberg.
Here.
Fire Chief Terrazas.
Here.
Deputy City Attorney Linda Nguyen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And Chief Terrazas, would you do the pleasure of a flag salute in the moment of silence, please?
Absolutely. Please stand and follow me. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now please join me in a moment of silence in honor of past and present members of the Los Angeles City Fire Department who devoted their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Okay, we're at the item for Commissioner's comments. Today is a very special day for the Los Angeles Fire Department, which I learned last night on the evening news. And I'm very excited. We've been waiting for this day to come. And Chief Crowley, I think I saw your picture. You're present? I'm not sure if she is. Anyway, I did learn in the news last night that the City Council will be voting on the appointment of Chief Kristen Criley as the Chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department. And so I understand that somewhere after 10 o'clock, maybe around 11, that will be the item on the agenda at the LA City Council. So that's a very exciting time, and we all totally support the mayor's appointment and Chief Crowley, because she has worked very hard for so many years in this department, doing so many things, sitting in every chair, as we heard on television, in the TV news. They did a great job of highlighting that agenda item for this morning. And we're very proud of her and proud to know that we will have a woman at the helm of the LAFD. And so, are there other commissioner comments? I'm not sure. Do I see a hand from somebody?
Hi. This is the first I've learned, and as you were speaking, I Googled it, and it is true that she is going to be voted in. That's fantastic. I believe she starts on the 26th. I just want to say I'm hopeful, and as I'm just reading a quote, she says, "As the fire chief, if confirmed, I vow to take a strategic and balanced approach to ensure we meet the needs of the community we serve. We will focus our efforts on increasing our operational effectiveness, enhancing firefighter safety and well-being, and fully commit to fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture within the LAFD."
That's a wonderful quote.
Amazing. I look forward to this, and thank you all so much. And thank you. Good luck, Chief Crowley, today, and hopefully we'll be on to watch.
Yes, that would. Are the other commissioners who would like to have comments today?
Yes, this is Commissioner Babcock.
Oh, Commissioner Babcock, good morning.
Good morning. I just want to congratulate our hopeful new Chief Crawley as she comes in and takes on this significant role and being part of this board during a monumental time of when we will have the first female chief of the LA Fire Department is very special. And I would be remiss to not thank Chief Terrazas for his service these years to the city of Los Angeles, the past almost 8 years plus. He has been significant in that role. I'm very proud to have seen him although I haven't been on this commission as long as my colleagues here, I have seen him from the other side over on pensions and even a strong pivotal role for our retirees who have always respected him as well. So thank you, Chief Terrazas, and wishing you very well in your retirement. And it's going to be a great new chapter for you as well. And just want to thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And this is Commissioner Ibarra. Certainly we didn't want to ignore, we weren't ignoring Chief Terrazas, but there's going to be a time when we're all going to have like an hour to just talk about Chief Terrazas.
Yeah. Hi, this is Commissioner.
Commissioner Ibarra.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Ibarra. So this is the first I'm hearing about it as well. So I just want to congratulate Chief Crowley again. I think I've already stated, my strong support for her. And as well, congratulations to Chief Terrazas. I know that this last year has been very difficult on so many levels for all of our department, especially in terms of the workload. And everybody is every single weekend. And so thank you to everybody for all of your hard work during the pandemic and during this transition. And there will be more time to say more about both of these individuals. So
Thank you, Commissioner.
I guess my comments are going to be identical to everything the other commissioners have said. And it's been my pleasure, working with you, Chief Terrazas, and I'm looking forward to Chief Crowley. And I think it's appropriate that, like last month was Black History Month, this is the first day of Women's History Month. And as the only male on the commission, I think we have a lot to celebrate with a new female chief and 4 female commissioners.
Thank you, Dr. Harr, for reminding us that this is the first day of March, and we are going to begin to celebrate. We are beginning the celebration of Women's History Month, and there is a lot of history there, that's for sure.
I want to second. Thank you, Dr. Hara, being the only male on the board and announcing it's Women's History Month and reminding us all. Thank you. It was great. And what better way to celebrate it than voting in the first female fire chief to the LAFD?
Very true. Chief Terrazas, I see your picture. Did you want to make a comment? Or are they just viewing you at this moment?
No, I turned it on, but if we're to me on my report, let me know if we're to that point. I'll make some comments.
Oh, okay. Very good, very good. So are there other commissioner comments? Okay, seeing no others, please, I do want to remind the commissioners to keep up with keep your report that came on the final report of the Deloitte study, so that we'll have it for our next meeting. We sent it early so that you can really look at it and read it and go through it and be prepared for the next meeting, March 15th meeting, when we'll have a thorough report on that item. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the report of the fire chief. Chief Terrazas.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't really have any significant events to report on, but I do want to add my best wishes to Chief Crowley. In the press conference we had with the mayor about a month ago, I shared my emotions at the time, and I said that I was feeling, and I still do feel, 3 significant emotions. Number 1, grateful. Grateful for 38 years of a fantastic career. I was a little boy and I got to live out my childhood dream, and I'm so thankful for that opportunity. Secondly, I felt tremendously relieved that I'm leaving the department in good hands with Chief Crowley. The fire chief job is a 365, 24 hours a day, every day of the week. There's a lot of demands on your personal life, and I know Chief Crowley is up to the task, because we've talked about that. And the last feeling was optimistic. I've promoted Chief Crowley 3 times under my tenure, and I didn't do that because just because. I did it because she earned the opportunity. She did well. So I have no doubt she's going to continue that level of high performance in the new position as my replacement as the first female in the history of our department to be the fire chief for the LA City Department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Now we're at item, Letitia.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gomez, I'm sorry, I forgot to let you explain the rules for our meeting, but just before we go into public comment, would you go over those rules, please?
Sure. Persons may listen to this meeting live by dialing any of the telephone numbers listed on the cover of the agenda for this meeting. Should you dial one of these numbers, you will be able to listen to the meeting but will not be able to give public comment during the meeting. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Fire Commissioners on any item on the agenda or to provide general public comment should call 1-669-900-9128. When you are asked for meeting ID, please enter 881-2091-3045, followed by the pound sign. Then press the pound sign again to continue. You will then be joined into the meeting. To alert the board that you would like to give public comment, press star 9. You will be called on by board staff who may refer to you by using the last 3 digits of the number you are calling from. When unmuted by staff, press star 6 and please state your name. As a general reminder, public comment will be limited to 1 minute per agenda item and up to 2 minutes allowed for agenda items. At the request of the speaker will be afforded an additional 1 minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total per speaker. Time cannot be ceded to another speaker, and an individual may speak only once during the public comment period. Only those who are in the queue when the president begins the public comment section of the agenda will be allowed to speak. These instructions may also be found on the front page of the meeting agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll go into public comment, which is item number 3 on the agenda.
I only have one hand raised. I've requested that you unmute. Number ending in 706. Good morning. Please Good morning. Please state your name and the agenda item or items you will be speaking to this morning.
Sure. My name is Lauren. I'm with Equity on Fire. I'll be speaking to items 6B, the Training Academy reassigns, as well as 3 general public comment and 2 chief's comments.
Very well. You have 3 minutes, please.
Again, my name is Lauren Andrade. I'm with Equity on Fire, an organization that fights for diversity, equity, and inclusion within the fire service. The fire service, unfortunately, has a rich history of discrimination within academies against underrepresented groups, using skills and/or evolutions in the academy which are not used in the field or harder than what the job requires. Agencies will camouflage what is discriminatory, having a disparate impact on underrepresented groups by saying that they don't want to lower their standards. Many departments have used a third-party validation of the academy, an external audit. This does a few things. It protects the city from litigation, and it also prevents wasting taxpayer dollars by recirculating recruits unnecessarily. I can tell you right now, LAFD has percentages of women, Black firefighters, and Hispanic firefighters that are being recirculated more so than their white counterparts. One of our clients is a woman, person of color, who has successfully passed probation in another department. And she was describing when she had first gone into LAFD's academy, she was unsuccessful. And an instructor had asked her what her name was because he couldn't pronounce it on the back of her shirt. Before she had a chance to answer, he said, "Never mind, you won't be here long enough for it to matter." She looked at me and she said, "Cap, they don't want me here. They don't want me there." Currently, in your academy, you have ladder evolutions that are taught that immediately when they go out into the field, they're taught a different way, saying we don't do that out in the field. This is not only unsafe, but leaves the city open for litigation, citing inconsistencies in training practices. If you are truly the best, We will strive to evolve and improve to best serve Angelenos, as most organizations and institutions do. If you have a third-party validation audit, you will be ensuring that it meets the NFPA requirements and not continuing the fire service tradition of using the academy to weed out those from underrepresented groups. After all, what is not measured cannot be managed. Thank you. I render the rest of my time.
Thank you for your comments.
Commission President.
Is that the last comment, public comment?
That's the only one we had today. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Okay,
Commission President, I just want to make sure that the department investigates the allegations that were made by the public speaker. I'm sure they are. I just want to make sure that that's on the record, because that's the practice that we do in order for risk management. Commission President, it must be investigated.
We don't have discretion. It's not our policy to comment on public comment, but if you want that added, you can add it, address it in a timely place. Next item on the agenda is number 4. We've had this discussion about emergency meetings on virtual meetings. I don't know if there's discussion about it or if there's a motion.
Hi, this is Deputy City Attorney Linda Nguyen. At the last meeting, there was a request by one of the commissioners as to the status of other city boards and commissions to see if they've gone back to meeting yet. I know that I've checked, and I know that the police commission and the other board within the police department, the police permit panel, they are still meeting virtually. And I know that the city council has been continuing to meet in a hybrid mode since they've been meeting that way for a while now, where they are in person, but the public is not invited into the council room. So I just wanted to give that update as was requested.
Thank you very much. Is there discussion, comments, or a motion on item number 4?
Oh, I make a motion to continue for another 30 days, item 4A.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we continue item 4A. Ms. Gomez, would you do a roll call?
Woods Gray?
Yes.
Babcock?
Yes.
Hara?
Aye.
Ibarra?
Aye.
Lindbergh?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good. Moving on to item 5, which is the consent agenda items. Is there any discussion? If there's of any of the items, if none, a motion is in order.
Make a motion to move items 5A, B, and C.
Second.
Is there? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we move the consent agenda items A, B, and C. Mrs. Gomez, would you do a roll call, please?
Woods Gray?
Aye.
Babcock?
Yes.
Hara?
Aye.
Ibarra?
Aye.
Lindbergh?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 6, the regular agenda items. Item A, BFC 22-016. Who's doing that report? Chief, I see Chief Graham Everett, I see you.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
City Attorney Nguyen and Letitia. My name is Graham Everett. I'm a Deputy Chief, and I serve as the Chief of Staff. Today, I'll be providing you the update on complaint tracking system. The Commission had asked for a report back on the numbers and types of access we have for members that have access to CTS, complaint tracking, that is monitored out of PSD, and also DTS, which is discipline tracking system, and that is also monitored out of PSD. So from the report in front of you, you'll see that there's 4 types of access. There's full access, moderator access, browse-only access, and case-by-case access. Full access, as you see from the chart on page 2, is limited to certain positions within the fire department. Myself as the chief of staff, the PSD commander, the PSD adjudicator, which is the battalion chief assigned to PSD, the PSD chief special investigator, the PSD clerical secretary and admin clerk, and also the Office of the Independent Assessor and MIS, who helps us support the system. For full access, it's basically the chain of command for PSD for any updates or inputs that we need to make. For browse only, it is as described. Basically, you can browse what is in the report. You can't edit or do anything like that. That is restricted to the PSD sworn advocates and civilian investigators. And also it's provided to the alternative process chief officer, and that's normally the AOPS commander and the XO out of administrative operations sometimes. And then the moderator access is, the moderator is assigned to professional standards division, and the moderator is basically handles everything that comes into PSD through CTS, establishes the investigative file for the PSD commander, and really is the quarterback of the whole system. All told, there are 27 members with those types of accesses throughout the department. And they're basically assigned as shown in the graph. The fourth category of case-by-case access is provided to officers that are assigned for investigation. So if you're a captain in a fire station and you have been assigned to do an investigation for one of your subordinate members, you will be provided access to that case only. And so you can update and you can input your reports and what you find in your investigation. So that covers CTS. On the DTS side, which is a very similar system, the case numbers speak to each other from CTS to DTS if they are sustained. If you have a sustained case, the moderator will close that out as sustained, and it creates a DTS file. DTS, the full access, again, it's basically the PSD chain of command. That's the chief of staff, PSD commander, PSD adjudicator, chief special investigator, the moderators or the moderator, and the clerical at PSD, the independent assessor's office, and MIS for support. There are currently 14 members that have access to DTS. That system, again, is only for sustained cases, and that's how we track the process of suspensions, reprimands, boards of rights. Finally, if at any time one of these members that's identified is part or subject of an investigation, those accesses are evaluated and removed for the time being, and that's really where we are with the system. We are working on CTS 2.0, if you will. We've been working towards getting a more updated system. CTS was created when we opened PSD in 2007, 2008, and MIS and ITA actually helped create that system, and we're working for something a little more modern, which will help us do some tracking and better reporting. So that's what I have for you on CTS access. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. Commissioners, Commissioner.
Oh, me.
Commissioner Ibarra. Okay, yeah. Commissioner Ibarra.
So the reason that I asked for this report was with a view towards seeing whether access should be limited even further. But it seems like it's already pretty curtailed. And I also know that we're developing a new CTS program or buying a new off-the-shelf one. Can you give us more information about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, and just what the access is going to be once we transition to that, and when do we anticipate transitioning into that?
Yes, ma'am. So we've been attempting to get funding for a few years now for a new system. We've evaluated off-the-shelf programs. Some customization would be made on those. And after working with our IT bureau, the conclusion was that we could actually utilize different programs that potentially ITA has right now. LAPD has a system that they use. City Attorney's Office has a system they use. So we are evaluating piggybacking on what they've created. But our cases are different. We don't have the criminality that LAPD has. We don't have some of the tracking of hours and things like that that the City Attorney's Office has. So there's parts of each of those programs that would work well for us, but other things that we really don't need. So our IT bureau continues to work on that process. We're a few months away from even, we had just started that process when we kind of got sidetracked with COVID. And we're still pushing for the funding through the budget process to get a system up and running. Once we do get it up and running, the access will look very similar. We've evaluated how we could trim down the number of people with full access, but practically speaking, day to day, it's difficult to do that. So we'll continue to evaluate that, and if changes need to be made to the access, we certainly can do that.
One of the interesting things is the fire chief doesn't have access.
Correct.
Obviously, both the current fire chief and the incoming fire chief both are very familiar with the system because they're both former PSD administrators, and that's not an unimportant skill and background to have in order to be fire chief. But neither one of them, is going to have access, and traditionally they don't. And the chief, the deputy chief for administration, it doesn't look like they have full access.
That's my other title, ma'am. So
no, the deputy chief for what is the deputy? So there's you're the chief of staff, and then there's the deputy chief for the role that Chief Crowley is in right now. I'm sorry.
Right, and so the administrative operations commander is a chief deputy. So AOPS has, and we use administrative a lot. We have administrative operations, and then we have my bureau, which is administration bureau, and we also have administrative services bureau. So AOPS commander has some access because of their role in the alternative process. So when we refer a case from PSD to the alternative process, it goes to the administrative operations chief deputy, and it is managed out of that office.
Okay, so but it's not full access.
Correct.
I'm looking at your chart. So it's browse only access, or is it?
Yeah, it's browse only. We also can provide, and so from browse only, they work with the moderator to actually assign the case as needed to the investigators that are assigned to it. Once they get assigned to it, they have the access to do the inputting, and the AOPS commander can use the browse only access to see how those cases are going and monitoring the comments and the timelines and the different things that are going on with the investigation.
Okay, so let's say that any one of these. Okay, so let's take Chief Crowley. She's about to become fire chief. When she's fire chief, she's not going to have access.
Correct.
So when do you cut off access for the chief for administrative operations?
Upon her effective date.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I say effective date when she's in the seat versus today when we go through confirmation or whenever the city clerk signs off. So yeah.
Okay. So in theory, if it was somebody else who was sitting in that seat and then had to take leave, what is your policy for when you cut off access to them?
So what type of leave? Like a vacation, we wouldn't change access. An injury, we really wouldn't change access.
So if they went on medical leave, even an extended medical leave, you wouldn't?
We might. We would, if we had an actor in place, we would add the actor to have that type of access. But if there was no cause or reason to remove the access, then we wouldn't really do so unless they were under investigation.
Okay. And if they were under investigation, when would you cut off access?
upon notifying that they're under investigation.
Okay. And so is that always the practice?
That's what our policy is. There might be some delays here and there depending on what notifications were made and if that part of it was covered on that particular incident or not. But yeah, that's the practice.
So that's in theory, that's the practice, but there could be mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And as soon as we are made aware of another, of something like that, then we correct it and we make that access go away.
All right. And so is that the same for every other position here? Like their access once their position changes? So maybe that's what we should be looking at in terms of the commission is making sure that there is consistency about when somebody's position changes. Somebody stops being a PSD, like a sworn member stops being a PSD investigator, and then, becomes an inspector. There shouldn't be any lag time between the time that they become a PSD investigator and, we need to be consistent. So maybe we should have a policy to make sure that somebody's ensuring that you lock them out of access. Even if it's browse only, I understand that means that they're not going to be making any inputs, they're not going to be making any changes, but it's still giving them information, and for whatever reason, they're curious about it and they're still looking at that. We just need to tighten that up so there can be no lag time. I mean, there's also, I also want to ask you about, so that's one thing. Secondly, all of these people have signed some sort of confidentiality agreement about this. Can you describe that?
Right. So when you get assigned, for instance, everyone assigned at PSD, everyone on the chain of command for PSD, the moderators, the civilian investigators, the sworn investigators, we have a confidentiality form that's filled out. And that's not just for CTS, that's for everything related to any investigation or interview that they conduct. And so that is signed upon their assignment to PSD.
Okay. So if somebody is looking at, at the cases in CTS and then, just spreading rumors about them or discussing them with personnel that they shouldn't be discussing them with, what's the remedy? Is there a remedy in their confidentiality agreement?
Yeah, that would be a breach of the confidentiality agreement. The department, if it had sufficient evidence, would charge that person with violation of policy, and they'd probably be removed from PSD if they were found to be sustained of charge. Okay.
What about chief officers? So there's very few chief officers who have access to it, but so if they're in the field, and can they be checking all of CTS or just cases that arise from their bureau? How does that work?
I'm not sure what you mean by chief officers in the field.
Okay. Well, let's just a chief officer in the field. Do they have access to CTS at all?
Yeah. The only option right now, or the only access they have right now, is case by case. If they're assigned to that case, they can look at that case file, but nothing else.
Okay. What about just a member of any rank who is inquiring of members assigned to CTS because they're curious about any particular CTS case?
No.
What is that describe the violation of policy?
Again, that would be, first, there are no access issues in terms of people that are not assigned to the CTS case. They wouldn't have access to it. So someone that's not assigned to the case that's looking.
Yeah, but because there has been allegations, especially in the newspaper, that some of our members have information, who are not assigned to CTS, have information about particular cases. How does that happen?
Well, if they're, in terms of information that they have about a case, may come from word of mouth, it may come from different sources. If that was the case, our investigators would interview that person that may have information that's pertinent to the case. Now, if they're accessing CTS somehow through somebody else's login or something like that, that would be inappropriate and a violation of policy. It would be a violation of policy for the person that allowed them to gain access, and also for the other member that may be spreading malicious gossip. So we would follow up on that with an investigation separate and apart.
Do you have, how often does that happen?
I don't think very often. I know we have followed up on, when PSD does an investigation and they're going through it, if we start hearing things from an individual that says, well, I heard this, they will follow up with that person to run that to ground. A lot of times it's because they've heard something word of mouth about what occurred, and they may or may not be a recipient witness to the investigation, but we follow up to find out.
Yeah, so I'm not so concerned about recipient witnesses, because obviously I think you want to interview those for that reason. So I'm just wondering about people who say, I heard that the investigation was blah, 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 or, who claim to have direct knowledge about an investigation. So that's the only thing that I'm obviously you want to interview recipient witnesses. Yeah,
so we'll follow up though. If someone's claiming they know something, we'll follow up on it in terms of the investigation. If it's pertinent or not, it'll be, it's included in the report. It may or may not add to the report in terms of it, the preponderance or not. And oftentimes we cannot we can't disclose the contents of those investigative reports because it's confidential. So when someone says, I know this happened, but they were not a witness to what occurred, they don't have access to the report, oftentimes they are just basically spreading rumors. And so we do have a rule and reg that prohibits malicious gossip, and we have followed up on that from time to time.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there other commissioners who have comments, concerns, questions for the chief? Chief, who's in charge of locking people out?
So we have a couple of people with moderator access and access to ITA to change the status of somebody that has access or provide access to people that are newly assigned. And they're assigned to my bureau.
So who gives orders for people to be locked out?
That would come from the PSD commander. That would basically say, this person's transferring out, let's say, or this person is for whatever reason we need to shut down their access, and that occurs upon that effective date. Normally, when we shut somebody's access off, it's usually because they've transferred out of the division. On rare occasions we've had to do it in other occurrences, but normally it's just because somebody's transferred out.
And I wasn't clear what you said. They can only access the information from the computer in the office, or they can do it outside of the office.
I believe there's a way for them. We have a remote access, especially with COVID. We opened up a lot of remote access to different programs, and so you can access CTS remotely, not just to access your case files if you're an investigator, but also to file a complaint. It can be accessed remotely as well.
Oh, and is there a record within the computer system that lets you know that someone has access to CTS?
I believe we can track it through ITA as to who has accessed it. to get in on the login, but we don't know what you look at once you're in the system. We know you're logged in, but we don't know what you look at.
So could you go to assert the number that they put in, a key or the code or whatever lets them in, and would it say this person entered last on January 2nd, 2022? Would it say that?
Yeah, it gives you the login information, not the details of what you looked at.
Okay. So will the new programs that you're looking at do that?
I'm hopeful. You know, we have to see what systems are available, what options they have available. You know, the priority on the new system is being able to track and report on our investigative files. So we're looking at everything that they have to offer. And so I'm assuming that there's a way to track through different pages of what you look at once you're logged in. But I haven't looked at the back channels of some of these programs, just kind of the user interface, you know, how you interact with the program.
I think that would be an important thing to have in a new program, to know what people are looking at, as well as when they looked into the system last. Okay, are there other comments from commissioners or questions from commissioners for the chief? I'm not. I'm looking to see if I can see. I don't see any hands. Okay, very good. Well, it seems like, Chief, thank you very much for that information. I don't see any other hands, or is there a motion to receive and file the report?
Motion to receive and file 6A.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, so it's been seconded that it's been moved and seconded that we receive and file BFC 22-016. Ms. Gomez, would you roll call, please?
What's Gray?
Aye.
Babcock?
Yes.
Hara?
Aye.
Ibarra?
Yes.
Ninberg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good, thank you. Now we move to item B, BFC 22-019.
Madam President?
Ms. Commissioner Ninberg.
Oh, yes. I'd like to continue this to the next meeting, and I'd like to request that it be incorporated into the board report, the Academy board report, from that this is an addendum to, so that we can look at it all together.
Okay, is there any opposition from commissioners to continue this to the next meeting with the full report? Okay.
Okay, I make a motion.
When do we need a motion to continue?
Yes, you do.
Okay, is there a motion to continue item B, 6B?
Yes, I make a motion to continue item 6B with that it be added to the report and it all comes together the next meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we continue item 6B until the March 15th meeting when we have the full report. Ms. Gomez, can you do a roll call, please?
What's Gray?
Aye.
Babcock?
Yes.
Hara?
Aye.
Ibarra?
Yes.
Ninberg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We're at item C. Chief Graham Everett, are you bringing us up to date on the COVID vaccination non-compliance process?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let me find my update for you.
I know you're busy today.
It's just Tuesday, ma'am. Okay, so today's update on the COVID numbers, just want to provide you with this update as we previously reported. So at this time we have 3,230 members that are fully vaccinated. That's a percentage of 85.45%. At this time, we have 343 members that are not vaccinated, and we have a varying number of people that have not reported yet, and we have a small number of people that are too new to establish a record in terms of like having an email account. Those are our recruits, having an email account, things like that. We're processing 352 exemptions. From that number, 6 of those members are fully vaccinated already. 346 remain not fully vaccinated for the exemption request. Of that 346, 53 are requesting medical exemptions. 6 are requesting both medical and religious exemptions, and 287 have requested religious exemptions. We have the same number of people that, we sent 48-hour notice to comply with 334 members, and we had 94 members that became compliant prior to being sent home. We had originally 240 members that were placed off duty because they did not become compliant. Of that 240, 216 have become compliant and returned to duty. 3 members have resigned, and we have 21 members that remain on unpaid administrative leave. And right now, our numbers, if you remember, probably 8 weeks ago now, we had about 200, or maybe 6 weeks ago, we had about 299 people at home in isolation. Today, that number, as of this morning, is 3 people in isolation with an active case of COVID. We have 10 people that are unable to return to duty due to like long-term effects. And we have 4 people that are on light duty. And right now we have nobody is admitted to the hospital. So those are the updates for today. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Enberg?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for including the long-term COVID numbers. And they've been off, I guess, various times. What's the longest somebody's been off on that?
I don't have that date available. I just know that 10 of them have not been able to return to duty due to post-infection. Mm-hmm. So that's post-isolation. So it could be as little as 2 weeks, and it could be extended. It just kind of depends on the individual. I think the encouraging thing is as you noted, is our number is down to 3 people in isolation, and we have nobody in the hospital right now, which is key.
Right. I mean, that is great. And where are we at with the 21 unpaid administrative leave? What's the process? How many have there been boards pulled?
Yeah, so right. So the members, we have 1 member currently. A board of rights is in progress for 1 member. We have the other members have received their first half of their Skelly packet, which includes the investigative file about their particular case. They're being scheduled for their pre-deprivation hearing, their Skelly hearing, at various times. So we have some this week, some next week, and then after they have their Skelly hearing, they'll be served with the final determination from the department. And then for those members, they'll be scheduled for a board of rights down the road.
Okay, but there's only 1 board of rights pulled so far.
Right now, there's 1 board of rights. Yeah.
And any progress with? I know personnel's dealing with the exemptions. Have you gotten any back yet that have been determined, undetermined?
Yeah, no. So we, the way it's working is the department is working through the large number. What did I give you today? The
240?
200 and I think there's more. 352 exemptions.
Oh, 352 exemptions, right?
Yeah. So as the department works through those, we have about 5 teams that are conducting interviews and going through that process because some of them are religious exemption requests and some of them are medical and some are both. So as they go through that process, They create a packet that'll be sent to personnel department. We are doing the internal process right now, and I think this week may be the last week. I think they're almost done. And then they'll be shifting that information over to the personnel department. Still don't have an ETA on how long it'll take the personnel department to work through those cases, but we'll continue the process and get it over to them.
Okay. And you have 5 people working full time on this?
It's actually 5 teams. They actually have a couple people that are involved in each of those, and they are, they're basically, that's all they're doing right now. It's going through those names.
Wow. Okay.
Our personnel services shop has really been very busy with the exemption processing. Our fire administrator has been overseeing that process and using people from personnel services section to manage that whole exemption, the interview process and scheduling and everything else. Wow.
Okay. That is expensive.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to be able to get through that many people. It's really become their project. They're here in the building. They're assigned. We're not pulling people from the field. I don't think it's people that are assigned to personnel services. So it's their work day basically.
Okay. All right. So that's like what, 20? You said 10 teams or 5 teams. So
we have like 10 people working on it.
10 people. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Are there other comments or questions for the chief?
And Chief, can you also just give us a brief update on the litigation?
The last I heard, there's the Firefighters for Freedom lawsuit. The city attorney's office just completed a court hearing on that, and I believe that part of it was dismissed, or the lawsuit was dismissed at some level. I'm not the authority on the exact verbiage of it. I know there was an injunction that was dismissed, and then the case was dismissed. So I don't know if there's another appeal happening or what, but that's what I know about the one case. And then I'm not sure if there's another group or not. I think there is, that the city attorney is working through that process as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there other comments, questions, concerns from commissioners? Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Chief. That ends our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn our meeting. Ms. Gomez, would you do the roll call, please?
Woods Gray?
Aye.
Babcock?
Yes.
Hara?
Aye.
Ibarra?
Yes.
Ninberg?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And